American scientists who led the team that found the Titanic today released the cream of the crop of thousands of underwater photographs.
In the depths of the North Atlantic Ocean lies a timeless secret that's a relic of tragedy and hubris. The mystery of the ship which sank decades ago has continued to baffle us to this day, and with every passing time, it's becoming more and more petrifying. From pieces of a violin to a disfigured shoe, these unique objects tell us a lot about what could have happened that day. Stick around till the end of today's video as the top 3 findings would make your heart pound like a drum. For those of you wondering what happened to the Titan submersible by OceanGate, then we have a surprise for you.
Submersible vessel which takes people to see the wreck of the Titanic.
5 people on board has entered a critical phase.
Breaking news more than a week after the Titan submersible imploded, killing all 5 on-board cruising cadets.
In the year 1985, Professor Robert Ballard from the University of Rhode Island embarked on an historic mission to locate the long-lost wreckage of the Titanic. Ballard taught oceanography at the university and was always intrigued by the events of the Titanic. He wanted to discover more of it, so he decided to embark on this extraordinary journey. To fund this project, he took help from the US Office of Naval Technology. Along with his team, Ballard dove deep into the North Atlantic Ocean and managed to locate the Titanic and some artifacts. He used 2 damaged Cold War nuclear submarines and began his descent to 3,810 meters deep in the North Atlantic Ocean. This entire project was kept secret for years, which led people believing its discovery to be scientific endeavor. When Ballard's team located the Titanic, they managed to pull out some pieces to the land and took pictures of the remaining ones. The artifacts he discovered included a rusted porthole, a delicate porcelain dish, the iconic ship's wheel, etc. These items are just a glimpse of what's in store for you in this video. Without any further ado, let's jump straight into the top 10 terrifying things recovered from the Titanic. At number 10 on the list, we have Titanic's engine telegraph. The telegraph was recovered in 1987 after more than half a century of Titanic's tragic sinking. The telegraph was made out of brass and had tarnished dials and weather levers, which gave us insights into the events of that night. The telegraph was used to send commands to the engine room of the ship, alerting them of any obstacles. The telegraph operated by sending electrical signals from the bridge to the engine room. It had several levers, with each representing a command. For example, when the stop lever was pulled, it sent a signal to the engine room by lighting an indicator and bell. This allowed for efficient and coordinated control of the ship's engines.
Hey! Full astern! Shuttle the dampers! Shuttle!
If the telegraph was in perfect working condition, then why wasn't the engine room alerted of the iceberg that struck Titanic? Unfortunately, the command to dodge the iceberg came a bit too late due to malfunctions, and the ship collided into the iceberg. The discovery of this engine telegraph gives us an insight into what could have happened that day and how Mother Nature can sometimes be unforgiving. Another unique item recovered from the Titanic was a bell that was rung by the lookouts to alert the captain of any obstacles. The bell was also recovered in 1987 and is now residing in the Titanic Museum. Its body was made out of brass, which is an alloy of copper and zinc, and is known for being extremely durable and resonating. The brass body, when struck with the iron clapper, made a loud noise that could be heard at great distances. When recovered, the bell had corrosion all over it due to being submerged in the water for several decades. Titanic's lookout, Frederick Fleet, survived the incident and in an interview reflected upon the events of that day. Fleet mentioned that the lookouts on the ship weren't provided with binoculars to detect obstacles. He mentioned if lookouts had access to binoculars, they could have easily detected the iceberg and thousands of people would have survived.
Do you think that if you had had glasses, you could have seen the iceberg sooner?
Certainly.
How much sooner do you think you could have seen it?
In time for the ship to get out of the way.
So that it is your view that if you had had glasses, it would have made all the difference between safety and disaster?
Yes.
If proper measures were taken, then the outcome of this tragic event could have been very different. James Cameron, in his 1998 blockbuster Titanic, showcases the head of a doll lying deep in the oceans. Apparently this was a real doll, and it was discovered 65 years after the Titanic sank. Well, the head of a doll. It was made out of porcelain, a material which was popular in toys in the early 20th century. When discovered, it was initially thought to be a rock due to it had dirt all around it. Cameron intentionally showcased the doll's head as the movie was inspired by real events. The doll belonged to Eva Hart, who, along with her mother, were among the few fortunate souls who managed to survive this incident. Due to the chaotic situation, Eva had to leave her much-loved doll behind in her second-class berth when passengers were evacuated from the ship. However, the doll turned up again after a tuna fisherman working for the family-run company OceanGate found it by accident in 1997. Eva was 72 years old when she heard the recovery news of her doll, which she had given up for lost. The discovery of the doll head serves as a reminder that there were several innocent children on board who had to suffer such a traumatic experience. This defaced shoe recovered from the ruins of the Titanic is a silent witness to the tragic events that unfolded on that unfortunate night. The shoe recovered was made out of high-quality leather and showcased the pure craftsmanship and expertise of that era. It had a lace-up designed formal shoe with a sturdy sole, a rounded toe, and a low heel, which indicated that it was a durable footwear. The shoe is a classic example of the fashion of the early 20th century and offers a glimpse into the fashion and daily lives of people who boarded the Titanic. The shoe was discovered by Professor Robert Ballard during his expedition of the Titanic in 1985. It was in such poor condition that only its top cap and touch of its insole remained intact. Its worn leather showcases the true power of Mother Nature and how humans stand nothing in front of it. It also reflects that there were real humans who became victims of that tragic incident. Another terrifying discovery from the ruins of the Titanic is a violin. The violin belonged to one of the band members of the Titanic, led by Wallace Hartley, and was one of his most cherished possessions. The violin was handmade by J.B. Schweitzer in 1880 using the highest quality wood. It's an excellent example of the craftsmanship and precision people had at that time. James Cameron's Titanic beautifully showcases the bravery and courage of these band members who, despite all the chaos, kept playing to calm down the people. Instead of running for their lives, they decided to use their music for a better cause. Wallace Hartley's body was reportedly pulled from the water days after the April 1912 sinking, with his violin case still strapped to his back. Even though the violin was submerged in the water, it stayed pretty intact and was auctioned in 2013 for more than $1.7 million. It's now at Titanic Belfast Museum and is open to public viewing. Before we talk about the remaining 5 artifacts recovered from the Titanic, here's a little something for those who are interested in what happened to the Titan. The Titan was a submersible vessel developed by Canada-based exploration company OceanGate. The submersible vessel was used to take visitors on a journey into the deep North Atlantic Ocean to the sunken Titanic. The terms submarine and submersible are often used interchangeably, but there's a key difference between the two. Submarine is a full-fledged watercraft that's independent and doesn't need help from any external source. It uses its own power to rise and descend deep into the ocean. On the other hand, submersibles are small watercraft that require assistance from a ship present above to operate seamlessly. In the case of Titan, this ship was the Polar Prince. The enigmatic submersible had successfully completed several trips to deep ocean, but on June the 18th, 2023, the vessel was suddenly reported missing. After 1 hour and 45 minutes, the submersible lost its connection to the Polar Prince, and after several hours, it was declared missing. The vessel had 5 passengers, including OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush inside, who embarked on this trip. Titan was expected to appear on the surface at 4:30 p.m., but when it didn't, the team at Polar Prince reported it to the US Coast Guard. From here onwards, there was a race against time, as the submersible had only 96 hours of oxygen left in it. The rescue team used aircrafts and other watercrafts to locate the missing submersible. On June the 22nd, a Canadian plane using sonar buoys detected a banging noise. Remote-operated vehicles were deployed, and one of the ROV detected debris which belonged to the Titan submersible. This indicated that the Titan had collapsed. and all the passengers inside sadly lost their life to this tragic incident. Reports say that the submersible suffered a catastrophic malfunction, leading to its tragic sinking. However, whispers among the tinfoil hat brigade suggest a different narrative at play. Titan was always a topic of debate for several years. People raised questions about its safety and mechanism, especially their outdated controllers, but the authorities at OceanGate neglected it. They neglected it to such an extent that, according to certain reports, Titan was the only deep-diving commercial submersible that wasn't certified by authorities. This incident has raised several questions on the credibility of OceanGate and its future projects. Among the ruins of the Titanic, explorers found the iconic cherub statue, which was placed on the ship's grand staircase. The statue was made out of bronze and measured approximately 9 inches in height. This eye-catching sculpture captivated everyone at their first glance and was one of the most iconic aspects of the ill-fated ship. There have been speculations that when water entered into the Titanic, people started to panic. Someone may have grabbed onto the base of the cherub to protect himself. The bronze cherub statue was attached to the base on 1 foot, and the fact that someone was holding onto it in such a high-pressure environment could have caused it to break. The angel statue was discovered in 1987 by Paul Henry Nargeolet, the director of the underwater research program for RMS Titanic Inc. When recovered, the statue was in pretty good condition, considering the fact that it was submerged for more than half a century. If you believe that the artifacts we've talked about up until now are strange, then wait till you hear about this. During the exploration of the Titanic in the deep Atlantic Ocean, divers discovered a leather wallet trapped under the ruins and debris of the ship. The wallet was believed to once have belonged to Madge Arthur Godfrey Pushen, a millionaire businessman and officer of the Royal Canadian Yacht Club. Upon inspecting the components of the wallet, researchers found 12 Toronto streetcar tickets. The unique thing about these tickets was that despite being in the water for several decades, it was still intact, even though they were made out of paper. Experts believe the leather wallet could have prevented them from going bad. Madge Pushen was among the fortunate passengers who survived the incident and lived on to tell its story. He was on the deck when the ship struck the iceberg, and being an army major, immediately took charge. He assisted in lowering the lifeboats and ensured that women and children were evacuated first.
Time being, I shall require only women and children.
When the ship began to sink, Pushen jumped into the water and recovered the overturned boat. He clung to the boat and assisted in rescuing other survivors. After hours in the frigid water, he was eventually rescued by the RMS Carpathia. We're now moving towards the top 3 artifacts. If you've enjoyed this video till now, then give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. At number 3 we have the Big Piece. As the name suggests, this was a giant piece from the Titanic ship that weighed over 15 tons and is approximately 26 by 12 feet. This piece was discovered in 1985 by Robert Ballard and is said to be a part of the ship's starboard side hull. It was also said to be a part of the original support beam attaching this section to the ship. When the ship collided with the iceberg, everything around this piece was completely destroyed. The Big Piece is on a display in the Titanic Artifact exhibit in the Luxor Hotel, Las Vegas, Nevada. The Big Piece holds great historical value and significance as it provides us insights into the construction and structure of the Titanic. According to certain experts and makers of this iconic boat, the Titanic could never sink due to its immaculate build. The Big Piece recovered showcases that robust build, but unfortunately, the tragic incident shattered these beliefs, highlighting the vulnerability of even the most advanced and seemingly invincible items. This pocket watch belonged to Sinead Cantor, a Russian immigrant who, along with his wife Miriam Cantor, embarked on the Titanic's last voyage. When the ship struck the iceberg, Cantor immediately thought of his wife without worrying what would happen to him. He successfully managed to send her in a rescue boat, but unfortunately lost his life in the tragic event. When his body was finally recovered, he had this particular inside his pocket the entire time. Despite the passage of time and the harsh underwater conditions, the pocket watch remarkably survived in relatively good condition. This was primarily possible due to the watch's case, which was made from durable materials such as gold or silver, which helped protect its delicate inner mechanisms from the corrosive effects of salt water. Before the Titanic met its unfortunate fate, cabin member Richard Geddes wrote a letter to his wife. The letter was written on Titanic's branded stationery and was even placed inside a Starline envelope. In this letter, Geddes told his wife about the events of the day and how the ship nearly survived collision with a smaller boat. Unfortunately, his wife couldn't receive this letter as Richard Geddes was one of the unfortunate souls who lost their lives. Apart from the letter written by Richard Geddes, there was another letter recovered, which was written by Baptist preacher John Harper. He was one of the bravest men who lost their lives in the incident. He refused a seat in a lifeboat alongside his daughter and sister and insisted on staying on board to offer words of comfort to passengers. When the ship sank, he gave his life jacket to another passenger and went down with the doomed ocean line. Harper wrote the letter on the Titanic stationery on April the 11th, 1912 to a fellow clergyman in Ireland. Harper talked about the time they spent together and how he hasn't forgotten him and his kindness. That's all for today. If you enjoyed today's video, then give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Till then, have a nice day, and we'll see you with another exciting video next time.